All right, let's dive into Bosnia and Herzegovina today.
Sounds good.
We've got a whole bunch of travel guides here
Yeah,
talking about, cities, landmarks, history, the culture,
the whole 9 yards.
really getting into what makes this country tick. By the end, you'll have a much better idea of what makes Bosnia and Herzegovina so special.
It really is a fascinating place. Geographically, it's where East meets West. It's been a crossroads for centuries,
Mm-hmm.
and that blend of influences has really shaped its history.
Yeah, and one of the first things that jumped out at me looking through these guides was Sarajevo, the capital city.
Oh, Sarajevo.
They all describe it as this captivating mix of East meets West,
Right.
but also, a city that's had to be resilient, especially after the Bosnian War.
Absolutely. You can't really talk about Sarajevo or Bosnia and Herzegovina, for that matter, without acknowledging the impact of the war. But Sarajevo really does embody that mix of cultures that you were talking about.
Yeah.
You've got Bosniaks, Serbs, Croats, and others, all kind of coexisting in a city that's still, in a lot of ways, healing.
It makes you wonder how those different communities interact today, how they're rebuilding together. What does that actually look like on the ground?
Well, you can see it everywhere. I mean, you can be walking down the street and you'll pass by these beautiful Ottoman-style mosques, with the domes and the minarets and all that. And then you turn a corner and suddenly you're in front of this grand Austro-Hungarian building.
Oh, wow.
It's just layer upon layer of history.
Like a living timeline.
Exactly.
And speaking of layers, our guide here mentions the Baskarcica,
Ah, the Baskarcica.
which is this pedestrian street full of shops and cafes, but also...
It's also where Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated.
Oh, right.
The event that triggered World War I.
Yeah.
So you have this fascinating juxtaposition of daily life and this incredibly pivotal historical event.
You're sipping coffee where history literally changed course.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't
Which
it?
makes you think. Okay, well, moving on to another captivating place that our sources rave about, Mostar, and specifically the Starry Most.
The Old Bridge.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful Ottoman-era bridge.
Yeah.
But tragically, it was destroyed during the war.
Yeah.
But the reconstruction of it has been really meaningful.
More than just rebuilding a bridge, then.
Oh, for sure. I mean, on a very literal level, it connects the two sides of the Neretva River, but it's come to symbolize much more than that. It represents bridging cultural divides in a city that's still working through the legacy of its past.
So a symbol of hope and unity.
Very much so. You can't really talk about Mostar without talking about the power of that bridge.
Yeah.
And there's this striking image, you've probably seen it, of young men diving off of that bridge into the river below. And that tradition actually goes back centuries.
Wow.
So it's like this really, really old way of life connected to this landmark.
It sounds like a place where you can really feel the pulse of the country, its history and spirit. Let's switch gears a little bit. Our guides also mention a place called Trebinje, which is described as this peaceful city. A bit of a contrast to Sarajevo, I imagine.
It is. Trebinje is definitely more of a laid-back kind of place, perfect for people who just want to escape and relax and find some tranquility. But that doesn't mean it's devoid of history. It also has its own old town ancient walls.
And even another Ottoman bridge, the Arslanagach Bridge.
Every bridge has its own story. The Arslanagach Bridge might not have the same, tragic wartime story as the Starry Most, but it's a beautiful example of Ottoman architecture. It's really well preserved.
So each bridge is kind of a window into a different part of the larger story.
Exactly.
Then we have Jashi. What a name.
Jashi.
The sources mention a hilltop fortress and this stunning waterfall.
Jashi is steeped in medieval history. It was actually once the capital of the Bosnian kingdom. And you really feel that historical weight when you're there, that fortress up on the hill. It's a real reminder of the power it once held.
Fortress perched above a waterfall. Sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel.
It's pretty spectacular. And, it's not just medieval history. Jaji's also played a role in the formation of Yugoslavia. So it's got this other layer of historical significance.
So all these seemingly separate places are kind of interwoven.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to Banja Luka, which is the second largest city. And our guide describes it as surprisingly modern. It's got this vibrant cultural scene, which is a bit of a contrast to the tranquility of Trebinje.
Definitely. Banja Luka shows you that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a country that's moving forward. It's evolving.
Mm.
And you've got the beautiful Castel Fortress there, which overlooks the Verbis River, so that's a reminder of its history.
Mm.
But there's also this really modern energy running through the city.
And for the adventurous types out there, the sources highlight the Krupa waterfalls and the Verbes Canyon, which are both near Banja Luka.
Yeah,
That's a little bit of a different pace after all these historic cities.
sure. But I think that's one of the things that's so cool about Bosnia and Herzegovina is that it really does offer something for everyone. You've got these cities steeped in history,
Hmm.
but then you also have this incredible untouched nature.
So, bustling cities, tranquil escapes, breathtaking natural wonders. Bosnia and Herzegovina's full of surprises.
It definitely keeps you on your toes.
It really does.
It really does. And, that variety makes me think about how, you have these peaceful places like Trebinje, and then you have these other areas where the echoes of war are still very much present.
Right.
It really highlights the complexities of the country's past.
Yeah, that tension between the past and the present is definitely something that comes through in these guides. You've got this incredible natural beauty, but then you turn a corner and there's a stark reminder of the conflict. It really makes you appreciate those moments of peace and tranquility all the more.
It does. And speaking of powerful reminders, let's go back to Blagojtek for a second.
Okay.
That Sufi dervish monastery built into the cliff face, it's not just visually stunning, it also speaks to this whole other layer of the country, this spiritual depth.
Right. Our guide mentions this turquoise river emerging from a cave with the monastery built right into the cliff face above it. It's hard to imagine something so beautiful. Can you tell me a little bit more about these Sufi dervishes?
Sure. Sufism is a mystical branch of Islam that emphasizes a personal experience of the divine. And the dervishes are known for their devotional practices. A lot of them involve these whirling dances, chanting. The Blagojteke has been a place of pilgrimage for centuries.
Wow. So it's like a place where people go to connect with something bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
And the fact that it's been a pilgrimage site for so long shows just how deeply rooted that tradition is.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating how they've integrated the Buna River into their spiritual narrative. It's not just a source of water for them. It's a source of life, a symbol of purity. They see it as this place where the physical and spiritual realms kind of converge.
It sounds incredible. The way you describe it makes you want to experience that tranquility firsthand. But I'm also ready for some more adventure. What about Sajeska National Park?
Ah, Sajeska. That's another place where you can really immerse yourself in nature. But as our guide points out, you can't escape those echoes of history there either.
Hmm.
The World War II Battle of Sajeska actually took place within the park.
Wow.
So you have these historical monuments juxtaposed against this primeval forest. It's
Yeah.
quite a contrast.
It's powerful imagery. You're hiking through this untouched wilderness and then you come across a monument that reminds you of the very real human cost of war.
Yeah, it brings those events to life in a way that a history book just can't.
It makes you reflect on how we remember the past, how we learn from it, and how we move forward. So Jessica seems like a place where those questions really resonate.
They do. And for our listeners who are feeling extra adventurous, there's Mount Maglich, the highest peak in the country, right there in the park.
Oh, wow.
The view from the top is supposed to be breathtaking. But it's more than just a vista. It's a testament to nature's resilience. Just as that mountain has stood for centuries, life in Bosnia and Herzegovina persists even in the face of hardship.
I like that parallel. Speaking of resilience, I'm ready to hear more about the Una National Park, that pristine Una River.
Ah, the Una. It's another testament to resilience, this time the resilience of nature. The clarity of that river is remarkable, and it speaks to the importance of conservation. The park has really made an effort to protect this unique ecosystem.
Which means protecting those opportunities for incredible experiences, too. Whitewater rafting, kayaking. I'm getting an adrenaline rush just thinking about it.
Right. And for those who prefer to admire beauty from a distance, there's the Otrbachi Book and Martin Broad waterfalls.
Okay.
Breathtaking. They're must-sees for any visitor.
Sounds like Una National Park has something for everyone, whether you're seeking thrills or tranquility. Okay, let's dive back into some mystery. Those Bosnian pyramids in Visoko.
Ah, yes. The pyramids, they're a real head-scratcher. Even if the scientific community isn't quite convinced they're so man-made, there's something undeniably captivating about them.
Right. I mean, our guide says the Pyramid of the Sun is at the center of it all and that there are these tunnels beneath it that are said to hold all sorts of secrets.
Right.
I can see why people are drawn to that sense of mystery, even if the science is still out.
It's a good example of how we interpret evidence, how we construct these narratives about the past. Whether or not you believe in the pyramids, they encourage us to question what we think we know.
So Visoko is for the curious, for those who like to explore the boundaries of what's proven and what's possible. Speaking of exploring, let's end this deep dive with a culinary journey through Bosnia and Herzegovina. All this talk about the country's different regions has definitely worked up my appetite.
Me too. And the country's cuisine is another reflection of its position at this crossroads of cultures. You've got Ottoman influences, Mediterranean influences, local Balkan traditions, all blending together. It creates a culinary experience you won't find anywhere else.
So what are some must-try dishes for our listener? The guides mention javapi, burek, and there's some talk about a very special coffee experience.
Avapi are these delicious little grilled sausages served in pita bread. They're seasoned to perfection. Burek is a savory pastry filled with meat, cheese, or spinach. Very satisfying. And Bosnian coffee, it's more than just a drink. It's a ritual. It's strong, it's rich, and it's prepared in this unique way using a special pot called a juzezva.
So the coffee alone is a cultural experience.
It really is.
Are there any other culinary adventures our listeners should seek out?
Absolutely. You can't go wrong with the food festivals and the local markets. You'll find all sorts of traditional dishes, regional specialties, all made with fresh, local ingredients. It's the best way to get a real taste of the country's culinary soul.
It sounds like the food tells the story of the country just as much as the landmarks and the historical sites.
It really does. And, what I find particularly interesting is how Bosnian cuisine reflects the resilience of the country.
Mm.
Despite all the challenges it's faced, the culinary traditions have endured. They've evolved, they've adapted, but they've stayed true to their roots.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's like this culinary tapestry woven from threads of history, culture, and tradition. Each dish tells a story. Each bite is a celebration of resilience and spirit. Makes you want to savor every moment. It really is amazing how food can connect us to a place, its people, its history.
It's true. It's a universal language, food.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Ancient cities, stunning nature, those controversial pyramids.
Don't forget the coffee.
Oh, right, and those incredible culinary experiences. But if you had to pick one thing, just one thing that you hope our listener takes away from all this, what would it be?
That's a tough one. I think I'd want them to understand that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a country of contrasts. East meets West. History and nature are constantly intertwined, and the weight of the past is always there, but there's also this real sense of hope for the future.
Yeah.
It's a country that defies easy categorization, and that's what makes it so fascinating.
It's a place that challenges your assumptions and broadens your understanding of the world. And isn't that what travel is all about?
Exactly. Travel is about pushing beyond our comfort zones, embracing new experiences, and opening ourselves up to the richness and diversity of the world. Bosnia and Herzegovina offers all of that and more.
So to our listener, we say this: go explore, go discover, experience the magic of Bosnia and Herzegovina for yourself. And when you do, remember to savor every moment, every bite, every encounter.
Because in the end, it's the memories we make, the connections we forge, and the stories we collect that truly enrich our lives.
Well said. Until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those curious spirits burning.